Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling two little letters that cause some pretty big arguments and can have a surprisingly large impact on your wallet. CC. What does that actually mean, and in today's world, does it even matter anymore?
You've definitely heard conversations like this, right? Where numbers like horsepower and torque are thrown around like trump cards, each one supposedly the ultimate proof of who's got the better machine. So, let's dive into this. Is CC really the king of all specs? We're going to break down what it is, where it came from, and figure out if it still deserves all the attention it gets.
All right, first things first, we need to get on the same page. What exactly are we talking about when we say CC?
Well, simply put, CC, or cubic capacity, is just a measure of the engine's size. Think of it kind of like lung capacity for a person. It's the total amount of air and fuel the engine can suck into its cylinders in one single cycle. The theory for a long time was pretty simple. More volume equals a bigger bang, which means more power.
And you know, this measurement has been around forever. As you can see from this timeline, the earliest engines were absolutely massive. The real breakthrough came when geniuses like Daimler and Maybach figured out how to make them smaller and faster. All of a sudden, they needed a simple, standard way to compare all these new designs. And just like that, CC became the go-to measurement.
Okay, now here's where that old belief that bigger is always better really starts to fall apart. It turns out size isn't everything. It's what you do with it that counts.
To really get this, we need to talk about two other numbers that are way more important: torque and horsepower. So torque is that raw pushing force you feel, that shove in your seat when you accelerate from a stoplight. Horsepower, on the other hand, is the measure of how quickly that force can get work done.
I know, it can get a little confusing, so let's try a simple analogy. Just forget about engines for a second and imagine you're buying a plot of land. The most important thing about that land is its total area, right?
Okay, so here's how that works with an engine. Think of torque as the length of the plot of land and the engine's speed, its RPM, as the width. So in this example, plot 1 is longer, it's got more torque. But plot 2 is a bit wider, it can rev higher. So which plot is actually bigger? Well, you can't tell just by looking at the length. You have to multiply them together to get the total area, and that total area is the horsepower.
So that's the crucial point right there. Horsepower is the total area. It's the real number that tells you the engine's overall capability because it takes into account both the twisting force and how fast the engine can deliver it. Focusing only on torque is like buying land based only on its length. It doesn't make any sense. And just when you think you've got it all sorted out, modern technology throws in a massive curveball: the turbocharger. This thing is an absolute game changer. It basically uses the engine's own exhaust fumes to cram more air back into the cylinders. What that means is a modern turbocharged 1000cc engine can easily make more power than an old 1600cc engine without a turbo. It completely changes the rules.
So we've established that CC isn't the last word on performance. But you know where it does have a surprisingly direct impact? Your bank account.
That's right. Things you'd actually think would matter, like how fast the car can go, how much it's worth, or your driving record, they're often just ignored. Instead, in a lot of places, regulators use that one simple number, CC, to decide how much you have to pay for mandatory insurance. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
And just look at this data for cars. The premium takes a huge leap. It more than doubles once you cross that 1500cc line. That's a massive difference in your yearly cost of ownership, all based on a single spec.
And it's the exact same story for motorcycles. You can see these really clear price brackets, all based on engine size. The moment you go over 350 cc's, your insurance premium pretty much doubles.
So if a high CC number doesn't automatically mean more power, but it does mean higher costs, is there ever a good reason to choose one? Well, let's look at the practical side of things.
It really is all about finding the right tool for the job. A big engine is great on the highway with a full car, where it can just cruise along without breaking a sweat. In fact, it can be even more fuel efficient in that situation than a small engine that's working really hard. But take that same big engine into stop-and-go city traffic, and it's just wasting fuel. A smaller CC engine is perfect for the city, but it might feel underpowered and strained if you're trying to climb a steep hill with 5 people inside.
Okay, we've gone through the tech, the history, and the cost. So let's bring it all together. What is the final verdict on CC?
It's really time we stop asking how many cc's and start asking smarter questions. So first, define how you're actually going to use the vehicle. Are you driving in the city or mostly on the highway? Second, look beyond just the peak numbers. Look at how the engine delivers its power across the whole rev range. Third, consider the technology. Turbos have totally rewritten the rulebook. And finally, you have to factor in the total cost of ownership, that insurance premium, the fuel economy, potential repairs, not just the sticker price.
Ultimately, this whole obsession with CC is really just a leftover from a much simpler time. Today, it's just one small part of a much bigger, much more interesting story about performance, efficiency, and technology. And knowing that, well, that's the real key to getting the right engine for you.